also in, commercial transactions, on your bigger deals, if you have a well-established development company or real estate owner operator that's selling or buying a property, they're going to have in-house staff that cover a lot of the due diligence items, either as a seller or as a buyer. If you're a smaller shop or just an individual or a group of local folks that have decided to invest in some commercial real estate, I say have an attorney involved from the very beginning. If you are up for it, have the attorney work on the contract. We occasionally have people come in and they've already signed the contract. That's okay. But it's good that they come in right after signing that contract, because there's a lot to do from the very time you sign that contract until you close. All too often, we have people show up that have a signed contract and a closing date that's tomorrow, and they want our help. When I go through the issues with them, they realize there's a lot that needs to be done, should have been done, and now we're sort of trying to cover our tracks, or trying to cover everything in a short time frame. From signing the and I understand people are on a budget. They should be. They should have a budget for legal expenses. It shouldn't just be a blank check. So, at the beginning, I think it's important to set the expectation. Go over all the due diligence that needs to be done. Some of them are purely legal. Some of them are non-legal. Some of them are sort of in between. And figure out who's going to do what. There's a lot that needs to be done, and that should not be overlooked. Give you an example. If you're buying a shopping center or a commercial building that has tenants, someone needs to review the leases. So you need to not just review the property and do a market feasibility study to determine whether you're getting the right price, but you need to know what leases are in place. You need to know whether they're enforceable. You need to know all of the terms. You need to know if there are restrictive uses, and that's a whole other topic for a whole other video. But whether it's the client or whether it's me, I always like to say, okay, who's going to review the leases? Because you're buying a project or a property that is subject to these leases that govern your relationship with these tenants for potentially the next 20 or 30 years. Maybe a couple years, but it could be 20 or 30 years. So, and you want to do that within the due diligence period. You're typically going to have an initial period to do your due diligence, after which time money goes hard and becomes non-refundable. That's all negotiated, but that's typically a feature or a common element of a commercial real estate transaction involving a shopping center. So before that money goes hard, you got to make sure you're comfortable with those leases. And I say get us involved early, because if there's going to be a lease issued, why not figure that out initially, in the first week, rather than 3 or 4 months later after you've already spent $50,000 to $100,000 on engineering fees and other professional services, not to mention the time and effort that you put into it. So get us involved early. We're happy to help. Talk to us about your budget. We don't want to run up legal fees, but let's get a plan so that it's a coordinated effort in checking off all of your due diligence.